Good morning. Happy Monday morning. And it's a beautiful day. I think it's going to be about 80 degrees today. Hey, just a heads up, we're going to keep you posted on anything that develops. Just because the governor said that churches can reconvene on May 10th doesn't necessarily mean that's appropriate for churches in Grand Island. So we're going to be in dialogue with medical professionals. We're going to be in dialogue with city officials. We're not going to put anybody in harm's way. And if we do start up on May 10th, and I'm not saying we will, we're still gathering information. But if we do, whenever we gather, whether it's the 10th or the 17th or the 24th, probably just be prepared. We probably won't offer everything that we normally offer. It'd just be wise to do a soft reentry. Probably that means no nursery, no children's ministry, no adult fellowships, just two spaced out services that we try to keep everybody spread out. You wouldn't do things like passing the offering plate. You would put boxes in the back of the auditorium. But all this is wet cement. We haven't decided anything. We're gathering information. Time is on our side. We're still going to connect with you. And even when we do start back up, for those in our community who are vulnerable, then we're still going to offer what we've been offering on the internet so that we stay connected with you. And even if your family, you go, you know what, we just don't feel comfortable with it. That's fine. Nobody's going to second guess your decision, what you feel is best for your family. So be patient with us. We don't know what we're going to do yet. We're gathering as much information as we can. Time's on our side. And either way, we're going to still stay connected. Well, here's the question for the day. What did you want to be when you were growing up? And for those of you who right now, you're in those elementary years, what do you want to be? So the question for adults, what did you want to be? The question for kids is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, we've been looking at Jesus' first lessons post-resurrection. Let me review what we talked about last week. It seems as though during Jesus' 40 days post-resurrection, the thing that he was really focusing on was weaning his disciples off of his physical presence, off of the spectacle of what his physical presence brought, to weaning them off of that to dependence on God's words. He continually directs his disciples back to the Word of God. Well, when you talk about post-resurrection lessons, how do you talk about post-resurrection lessons without bringing up Thomas? I mean, there were a lot of guys a lot of disciples that doubted Jesus, but Thomas got stuck with the label, doubting Thomas. Let's look at John chapter 20, verses 24 and 25. Again, the context is Jesus is risen. He's made a number of appearances, but Thomas wasn't a part of those. So verse 24, but Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them, the other disciples, when Jesus came. So he didn't get to see one of these first eyewitness accounts. Verse 25, the other disciples therefore were saying to him, we've seen the Lord. But Thomas said to them, unless I shall see in his hands the imprint of the nails, and put my finger in the place of the nails, and put my hand in his side, I will not believe. Jesus has appeared to some of his disciples. Obviously, Thomas wasn't there. Thomas just isn't kind of semi-skeptical. Thomas is adamant that, no, this event didn't happen. I might believe it if I see it. But then you wonder, well, what else would Thomas not believe? I mean, Jesus said that he would rise from the grave. And if you don't believe Jesus will rise from the dead, then what will you believe of what Jesus has said? Because that seems pretty strong. So we pick it up in verse 26 through 29. And after 8 days, so Thomas is kind of stuck in this. I'm not going to believe until I see. Well, it's interesting. Jesus allows 8 days to go by. That communicates to me Jesus isn't afraid of giving us some silent time, possibly to eliminate all our arguments. Can you imagine Thomas wrestled with this, is Jesus alive, for 8 days? Is he? Isn't he? He's hearing all the facts. Maybe he's running out of reasons not to believe. So after 8 days again, his disciples were inside. They were inside somewhere in some room, and Thomas was with them this time. And then Jesus came, the doors having been shut, and stood in their midst. There's something interesting here, kind of rabbit trail. There's something interesting that many times Jesus appears, he appears in the room. That somehow his physicality, he is able to kind of be in an area without kind of going through it in conventional ways. And it gives rise to the issue, when Jesus was in the grave, the stone was rolled away, not so Jesus could get out, but so that we could see in. So Jesus, all of a sudden, he appears to them in their midst, and he says to them, "Peace be with you." Just a formal greeting. Verse 27, and he said to Thomas, he just instantly turns to Thomas. He knows the issue. "Thomas, reach here with your finger and see my hands, and reach here with your hand, put it in my side, and be not unbelieving, but believing." Stop being an unbeliever and believe. Verse 28, Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." It's kind of a statement of surrender. It's a statement of saying, you know what? Okay, I'm done unbelieving, and I'm all in now. You're my Lord, and you're my God. It's kind of a statement. I'm going for it now. No turning back. And Jesus said to him, "Because you have seen me, have you believed? Blessed are they who did not see and yet believed." It's interesting now, Thomas throws caution to the wind. He's all in. He's going for it. I think this was Thomas's tipping point for when he said, you know what? I'm not holding back. I'm going for it. As the old hymn would say, no turning back, no turning back. Here's a question. What was your turning point? What were the circumstances surrounding your turning point when you said, I'm going for it? I'm believing. I'm going to follow Jesus. He's my Lord. Maybe it hasn't happened for you yet. But here's a deeper issue. Thomas didn't believe when A, he heard Jesus even predicting that he would rise from the dead. Thomas didn't believe B, when eyewitnesses gave testimony. These eyewitnesses were his friends that gave testimony that they had seen Jesus rise from the grave. So the question I had, what was Thomas hanging around for? He's not going to believe Jesus' words that he's going to rise. He's not believing the eyewitness accounts of his friends. So why is he still hanging around? You know, I think he was doing what a lot of us do. Hanging around religion for what he wanted it to give him. Picking and choosing what he likes. Kind of like going to a smorgasbord, going, well, I like this and I'll take this, but that water turning into wine, yeah, I'll take some of that. That whole idea of, Jesus, when you, put the coin in the fish's mouth and that thing, yeah, I'll take some of that. But I don't know, this pick up your cross and follow me business, that gives me indigestion. I'm not going to take any of that. Well, it raises the issue, is your relationship with Christ a smorgasbord where you can just take what you want? I think Thomas got to the place where his relationship with Christ was not about what he wanted, but he was now sold out on what God would have him do. See, you're either in or you're out. It's not, I want to pick this or I can pick that. No, it's you pick what Jesus tells you to pick. What do you like about the whole Jesus thing? What do you like about Jesus? And then what do you kind of reluctantly push away? Or maybe a safer discussion would, why do some people what do people like about Jesus? But what are people reluctant about Jesus? Why are people reluctant to follow Jesus? What's the tipping point, you think, for some and not for others? kind of a great discussion. Parents, be vulnerable, lead your kids in this. Kind of make it about a third party. Not make it too personal. But what do people like about Jesus and why do they follow him versus, well, it's easy to kind of go, I'm not buying into that. This whole giving thing, this whole pick up your cross and follow, this whole idea of being in submission, I'm not going to take that. Discuss. Well, we will keep you posted as soon as we find anything out and as we're wrestling through this issue. But in the meantime, enjoy the day, enjoy your family, and we'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday morning.